Hello, good morning everyone. How's things with you? I hope you're doing well. So today we will not be meeting virtually. Instead, I have prepared this video of lecture where you can actually view it at your own pace. And this week's focus would be on compare and contrast essay. So we have done argumentative essay, and another type of essay that we have to look into in this particular paper would be compare and contrast essay, which is very much useful for you when you're going to write your thesis later on. Okay, so I'm going to share with you my PowerPoint. So if there's a problem, then you can WhatsApp me. Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at compare and contrast essay. So we need to understand what is a compare and contrast essay. So this is actually a piece of writing where we will be talking about similarities and differences on two particular items or ideas or even concepts. For example, email versus traditional letters, government school versus private school. So on two different broad topics, and you will try to look in terms of the differences as well as the similarity. So and another vision of writing a compare and contrast essay is of course to provide a better clarification on a topic. So there are two types of compare and contrast essay. The first one is called point by point method, and the second one is called block method. Both methods are well known as well as used by many writers, so it is up to you to choose which one you are comfortable with. There is no concrete way of saying that you need to use point by point method to get a better clarification, or you need to use block method and not. So it is up to you on which one you want to choose as well as you are familiar of. So let me start by explaining to you the linkers or connectors that we can use when we are writing this type of essay, because we cannot run away from these connectors, because we will be talking in terms of similarities and differences. These are just some. There are plenty more out there, so you can just Google you can just Google linkers and find many more available in websites. So for example, if you want to talk about similarities, you can use words like in addition, same as, correspondingly, likewise, similarly, just as, compared to, as well as, or furthermore, in addition to, and so on. Whereas if you want to talk about differences, you can always use words like meanwhile, however, on the other hand, in contrast, although, conversely, on the contrary, unlike, or words like therefore. Okay, you are actually talking about the differences. So of course these are not the only words or vocab choice available for you. There are plenty more. You just need to Google linkers and you will be able to find more available in websites. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the point by point method first. Okay, so I have already snapshot the notes, okay, which are available for you in the module, in case if you do not have a copy of yours at home. Alright, so you may find the same examples on your module, so do not get baffled. Alright, okay, so the difference between point by point and block method is that point by point you are talking about one item at a time, and the topic sentence is usually the focus of the comparison. Okay, so you will talk about the ideas that you want to explain in each particular paragraph. So each particular paragraph you will talk about the points. Okay, if you look at this introduction paragraph, okay, at first you need to generally introduce the topic, and then you go about specifically talking about the issue of your topic. For example, here, government school versus private school, and then in your thesis statement, where the focus, you will include all the ideas that you want to talk about in the following body of your essay. And when we talk about body paragraph, as I said, because we are using the point by point method, so which means that we will focus one particular idea in one paragraph, and then you try to split this into the concept of government school as well as private school. That means the items that you want to discuss, and you will provide the details as well as the explanation and the reasoning for your topic. Alright, so the same goes to your body paragraph 2, where you will use the idea that you want to talk about, and then you split into the items, alright, which is the focus of the essay, and then you talk about the details. So this can include facts, this can include examples, reasoning, and so on, yeah. And then supposedly you need to have 3 body paragraphs, so I have only included 2 in this example. So another one more, it applies the same concept as well, just that you have to do you have to split the items into 2, and then you discuss it under one umbrella of your idea. Okay, and finally the conclusion part, where you will talk about the summary of all your points, and then you talk about the evaluation and possible future development. So of course you must be thinking, madam, do we need to have a specific choice? That means, are we supposed to choose like how we did for argumentative essay? No, okay, that's the difference between compare and contrast and argumentative. In an argumentative essay, you would have your own stand or your own opinion, which particular idea that you want to side on. Whereas in a compare and contrast, you will try to weigh both ideas in terms of the advantages and disadvantages, and then try to have a general statement at the end of the day by putting the role to the audience to choose. Okay, so that's point by point method. Alright, so next would be some activity for you. Okay, I'm going to give you some time for you to do this, but I will go on with my lecture, so most probably you can do this right after you have watched the video. Okay, so you need to do the exercises on page 80. So on page 80 is actually a brainstorming exercise, if I'm not mistaken, yeah? It's a brainstorming exercise where you will need to brainstorm idea for studying locally as well as studying abroad, and then try to see whether you can actually find any overlapping issues or not. So you will literally try to brainstorm according to the Venn diagram concept. Okay, and then after that I need you to complete an outline on page 81 as well. So for both of these activities you allocate about 15 minutes, yeah, and I would give you the answers by end of this week. Alright, so we are moving on to the next part, which is the block method. So block method can be a little bit tricky because we are going to talk about one particular aspect, which would be similarity in one part and then differences in another part. So this method focuses on the stand rather than each point. That means you talk about the issue itself in a collective way, and all of the facts, supporting details and examples for a stand are presented in one part, as I said. Okay, that means when you look at the similarity, you only talk about the similarity of both items, and then when you talk about the differences, you only talk about the differences in terms of counterfacts, supporting details and examples in another part. Okay, just here's one example. Okay, if you look at this one, this is a structure. You can see in the introduction it shares a similar trait as point by point method. The only difference is that in terms of the body. Okay, so in the body 1, you will talk about mobile phone. Okay, and then you will talk about in terms of what are the similarities. Okay, for example, in terms of lifestyle. Okay, what kind of similarity does mobile phone has? Okay, and what are the similarity that tablet has? But of course this one we gotta split into body 2. Okay, and aspect 2, you talk about course. Okay, the same thing you are going to talk about in your body 2, and then aspect 3, feature, you will also talk about this in the second body. Okay, which means that you try to categorize or compartmentalize into one particular body, which is that particular paragraph, You talk about the issues, but you focus more on similarity. The same thing applies for body 2. You talk about the similarities, okay? And then body 3, you try to talk about the differences, okay? Your stand and your opinions as well as your reasons itself. And then in conclusion, you try to have a summary of what you have done, and then you have your own evaluation. So this is a little bit tricky to do, but it is doable, okay? You can look at your book, okay, on page 103 of your module to get a better clarification of the concept of writing a block method, okay? So there is a disadvantage or advantage of block method, because the good thing is that you offer the description of two sides, and it can be more effective because the essay is short and it covers general issues, and it does not appear monotonous and boring like the previous method. But the disadvantage, of course, you tend to make it like a summary, and sometimes it can be disorganized as well, because if you do not follow the structure, you tend to have a mixed idea running through your essay. Yeah, and sometimes it can be a failure if you do not adhere to the structure of writing. Okay, so when we talk about block method, you can follow this particular concept of writing where you focus on this route of guiding you to write. That means you have the introduction paragraph, and then you have the body 1, okay, which is all about that particular issue, the particular item, okay, and then body 2 is all about the particular item as well. That means if you're going to talk about government school, everything about government school is in body 1, and if you're going to talk about private school, everything about private school is in body 2. That means the similarities as well as differences, you can discuss them in just one particular paragraph. And at body 3, okay, you talk about opinions and both A and B. Okay, so this is where you will try to exert the differences, yeah? And then finally you have the conclusion. Okay, so this is one method that you can follow, all right? But again, it's up to you, okay? I'm not going to tell you which works best, but for me, it's always the point-by-point method. I'm always comfortable in using point-by-point method because for me, it is more organized. But the call is on you. All right, so the activity for today's lesson would be on page 108, where you need to complete a content structure following the structure that I shared with you on the topic email versus letter. So spend about 20 minutes, and then after that on page 112 there are a few topics related to compare and contrast. I need you to choose one topic and write an essay using either a block method or a point-by-point method, and you can submit your essay through Google Doc. So because this is writing an essay, so I would advise you to work in pair, which means that let's say you are comfortable working with any of your friends in your group, so you can just submit one essay, all right, written by both of you. So which means that let's say one person have the structure and another person, you guys can contribute the essay, and then you submit your essay through Google Doc with both of your names and metric number included. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you very much for listening through the lecture. I will see you again next week. Bye.